host, and the opinions given by their guests do not necessarily. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the of season 2 of the Odyssey Hour. We are your hosts, and coming in dead last for the first time in the history of the show is our
Hey, Lauren's here.
Hi, Lauren.
You can blame my headphones for my delay. I'm sorry.
That is quite all right. You made it just in time for introductions. So, but we have an amazing show for everybody today. Where our first guest of this season is here, rocking out to our opening song, as I could see in the backstage area. But first, before we bring Mr. James Wallin in, who is the 32nd degree Master Mason of the Freemasons. Just a couple quick things. Obviously, the first one being next weekend is the Para-Unity Convention, which is going to be great. Got to throw out the presentation schedule today, finally. And I want to thank everybody. I don't know how many of our supporters of the Team One Out were able to get the spots, but our Leduc presentation next Sunday night has officially, I'm going to put this in quotes, sold out, because it's free, but you do need to register and everything. And all the spots got filled, so we're excited and overjoyed to be able to do that presentation. It's all going to be an amazing weekend next weekend. So
yeah, I'm very excited to go back there. I always jump at the chance. I don't even care if we investigate. I just like being at the Leduc Mansion. It's just a cool place. So it'll be great to show off what we have to offer.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, you guys know as well as I do that we've been there many times, and we've gotten a lot of phenomenal evidence. And honestly, if there's a lot of people who can't see it but would like to, let us know, and we'll contact Mariah, who's the site supervisor there, and we'll set up another one. And until people no longer care. But yeah, so we're happy about that. But I don't want to take anything away from our guest and learning all about the history of the Masons. And I know Scott, Cameron, and I were a part of an investigation at the Scottish Rite Temple, which is in downtown Minneapolis, a couple years ago. I have James was a part of that as well. In fact, he was the one that set it up. And I have a few clips from that if we have time and people want to hear them. Should be pretty sweet. So, without further ado, I introduce you to my good friend, Mr. James Wallin. Hello, James.
Hi there. Hi.
How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you very much.
Excellent. So, I'm going to kick things off, as I normally do, about finding out not so much how you became a Mason, although that could be a question for later, because honestly, in all of our conversations, I don't think I've ever asked you what intrigued you originally to become a Mason. So you know what? I'm going to skip over how the Masons got started, and I want that question first.
I did a book report on the Titanic, I think in third grade, and doing research on it. Um, for whatever reason, this particular book listed how many Freemasons were aboard and how many perished. And I didn't really know what a Freemason was. Trying to research Freemasonry in third grade in the school library was pretty disappointing.
Can't imagine.
So it was just something that I held on to for quite a while. And then in middle school, high school, I kind of picked it up again, did a lot more research, and was just really intrigued by all the history that goes with us and how much we've shaped certain things, kind of like, I don't know, the United States. It's this really cool place in the Northern Hemisphere. You should visit it sometime. And I ended up meeting with somebody that I was working with at the time and asked me if I wanted to become a Freemason. And I was like, heck yeah. So he researched where a lodge was near me because we worked together, but we didn't live near each other. So I ended up starting my Masonic career in Minnesota River Valley Lodge number 6, and I'm still a very proud member there.
How long have you been a Mason then?
I think this is my 10th year, if I recall correctly.
Interesting.
It's gone pretty quick. Yeah, I've actually gone through, and when you did the investigation at the Scottish Rite, I was the master of that lodge. So things moved really quick for my Masonic career. Excuse me. I'm still getting over a little cold. But so, yeah, I have really enjoyed it. At the moment, I'm master of Education Lodge number 1002. And like I had spoken with you kind of off the show, Mike, that we don't conduct business or anything like that. We're all about education. So our meetings are really interesting with educational pieces put on. And we don't have a building that we go to with Education Lodge. We go to every other lodge that's around us. And that way we get to see different brothers and so forth.
So, I mean, it was actually this education. I mean, I know you weren't, a part of the educational thing that you are now, but that was why you had contacted me to begin with. A couple of years ago, was because you wanted to bring in different presenters from all different fields, and you thought that it would be kind of cool to bring in somebody in the paranormal to do a presentation for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I even brought in the Savage Fire Department to do a presentation on CPR. Anything and everything to just have people involved was my main goal. People to come in and try something different, try something new. Excuse me, even if you weren't a Mason, to just get your interests into Masonry, even for the women with the Order of the Eastern Star, to become part of that. It's just Masonry is quite an amazing thing, and it branches off in so many different ways. And like I had discussed with you in the last show about how the first 3 degrees of Masonry is kind of like your kindergarten through high school, where you get your basics down. And then you can go into anything. I went into the Scottish Rite. There's the Shriners, the York Rite. For example, I've got. I said that I would show this, so I'm trying to do that. I think I'm a little too close, but it's the Keystone chapter of the Widow's Sons Motorcycle Club in Wisconsin. I mean, that's just more like there's so much that you can do, and it's worldwide. All right.
Okay. I guess I'm going on.
I didn't know what else to say, man.
No. That silence wasn't for you. That was for them. But
You were on a good roll with your questions, Mike. We didn't want to interrupt the interviewer.
I'm just getting things rolling, And if anybody wants to chime in, have at it.
I will chime in. What I want to know is well, I want to know a lot of things actually, but what in your description, what is the Freemasons? Like what is it? What does it mean to be a Mason?
So our motto is to take a good man and make him better. Freemasonry isn't for every man. It's a fraternity, and we're also a very charitable organization. The biggest one and easiest one is the Shriners. I think a lot of you know who the Shriners are. You see the commercials for them. You see them in St. Jude. We have nothing to do with St. Jude, but the Shriners do so much work with helping mostly kids out that have problems with either a deformity with their leg, arm, something like that, where usually insurance wouldn't cover something like that. So the Shriners will take care of that hospital bill. In fact, the Shriners have their own hospitals that they have surgeons that's what they do. That's all that they do. We do a lot of work with, well, for example, I don't know if you guys know, but in downtown Minneapolis, the U of M has a Masonic hospital wing that we pay for, that we're very proud of. We do a lot of charitable things, scholarships, things like that, lots of different things. And it also depends on, for example, the Scottish Rite has right care for kids that have the cleft lips. We'll take care of that for them, and then rehabilitate them how to speak and enunciate and so forth. So it's I don't know if I really answered your question, Sam. There's so much to it. It's huge. But for me to be a part of it is I'm just something. I'm part of something that's so much more than me. I'm part of something, again, that is worldwide. I've been to lodges throughout the world, and I can walk into any lodge and be welcomed. And that's so important to me. I don't know of very many places where, one, it's worldwide like that, and two, that you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the term fraternity kind of clarified it for me, because I don't think I've ever thought about the Masons in terms of a fraternity. But when you said it, I was like, oh, now that makes sense to me.
Sure. We're constantly looking out for each other. A great story that I like to tell is my wife and I were traveling in Denmark, and we showed up at the Grand Lodge of Denmark in Copenhagen, and a brother took us all around the entire place, showed us all the different unique rooms, except for a few. And once he was done with the tour, which was like an hour and a half or so, I was invited back for a meeting that night, which of course I didn't pack a whole suit. So I kind of had to piecemeal it. But he literally called the Grand Master, who is a heart surgeon at the hospital right next door, and said, hey, you've got two Masons. They recognize the wife as the same degree. They're not allowed to attend meetings, but they recognize that. And said, hey, you've got two Masons here from the States. And the Grand Master took our names down and gave them to the hospital and said, if these names come in, you're to call me immediately, as I will be their doctor.
That's
Cool.
really cool.
I never met the guy. I never once met the guy, but he was willing to take care of me or my wife because of this bond that we have through Freemasonry.
So, okay. So I'm going to ask this question because you brought.
I'm not telling you who's winning the Super Bowl.
That's right. I know you're sworn to secrecy. So, and plus you're not part of the Illuminati, which is the ones who rigged the Super Bowl. So
that's right.
So, all right. But so you brought the term fraternity and everything. So one of the and I can't remember who the hell it was, but after you were on our show a couple weeks ago, I had said, hey, we had my friend James on. He's a 32nd degree Mason, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, the cult. And I'm like, no, not at all. And I'm like, they're not a cult. And he's like, they're a cult. And I'm like, they're not a cult. But anyway, we just agree to disagree. But I mean, I'm sure that that's not something that's new to you or the Masons. So I mean, how do you respond to people who don't look at you as a fraternity, but look at you as some sort of cult?
So, I mean, it definitely happens, and there's some people that are going to be closed-minded, and that's their belief. I can tell them all the things that I just told you, and one, they're not going to believe me. Two, they're not going to care, and they're still going to believe that. Another personal story, when I was accepted to receive the principal 3 degrees of Masonry, I told my father-in-law, and he said the same thing. So you're joining a cult. Well, I can tell you what, my father-in-law is also now a Freemason. Just because of all the people that he met through me, through Lodge. He was just amazed by all these great people, and he wanted to be a part of that as well. And he's also part of the Shriners. I mean, so it's just, like I said, there's some people that are going to be closed-minded. You're never going to be able to get them to believe otherwise. And I feel bad for that. Again, am I the best Mason in the world? No, I'm not. I'm a Freemason, and I'm also Catholic. So, as we discussed before, the Catholic Church isn't really excited about Freemasonry. I'll tell you what, though, Freemasonry has nothing to do with interfering with religion or whatever it is that your belief is. In fact, I've said this before on the show. When we walk in Lodge, we are forbidden to speak about politics or religion in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely forbidden. It is something that can get you kicked out of Freemasonry pretty quick.
So why do you suppose that is? I mean, like, why were those rules or those guidelines put into place?
I don't suppose, it's actually very simple. Once you guys kind of think about it, I'm sure that you guys have heard the term, are you on the level with me, or just being on the level? Okay, a couple of you are not in your head. That's a Masonic term. And as brothers, we're on the level. None of us are any more or any less than the other. And if you want to bring up politics and one person's a Republican, the other person's a Democrat, well, now you're pitting each other. I'm better than you because I'm this party, and you're this party, so you're down here. Same with religion. My beliefs are Christianity, and the quickest and easy one that comes to mind is being a Muslim. Well, I'm a Christian. I'm better than you, and I don't believe that. But just that we're no longer on the level. So we don't talk about politics or religion, and then we are on the level. We are equal brothers worldwide. We're all equal. And Freemasonry does want you to go and practice your religion. In fact, I don't know if it's necessarily written anywhere, but it is highly discussed that no Masonic work should be completed on a Sunday. That is for you, your family, and your supreme architect, if you will.
I have a very general question, and this might be kind of basic, but I honestly don't have that much experience with Freemasons, so I'm very interested. How does your level system work? Because you referred to some grandmasters. You yourself have a very specific title. Can you explain a little bit about what that is and how that works within your system?
Certainly. So there's the first 3 degrees of Masonry. The first one is Entered Apprentice. The second is Fellowcraft, and then the third is Master Mason. And you don't have to go any further. Like I said, those 3 degrees are kind of like kindergarten through high school, where you get your basic knowledge of the world, if you will. After that, if you, let's say you wanted to become a medical doctor, so you join the Shriners, not quite literally, you're not going to become a medical doctor from doing that, but I'm just saying there's different fields within Masonry. You want to become a lawyer, so you would go Scottish Rite, or, I mean, those are maybe not the best examples, but there's so many different facets that you can go into after your first 3 degrees. And again, you don't have to do any. Just being a Master Mason, the 3rd degree that's the most important degree that any Freemason can and does accomplish. It's extremely important. And just the ritual for it is several hours long, to the point that it's almost always on a Saturday, and it's usually broken up into 2 pieces so people can have lunch and not pass out. But I hope that answers your question, or if you've got more, or if I didn't answer it correctly, just let me know.
No, yeah, that helps a lot. Yeah.
Oh, and you were also asking about so once you're in the lodge, then you also have officers that run the lodge. So you would have what's called the worshipful master. There's no worshiping. I don't know where that term necessarily comes from, but that's just what the master of the lodge is called. When you're talking to him directly in the lodge. There's also signs or ways that you show respect to him. And above the master of the lodge, in America, there is the Grand Master of the state. There's district wardens that kind of go throughout their district and so forth, but everybody reports to the Grand Master. And above the Grand Master of the state is nobody. There's absolutely nobody. There's not like a president of the United States. I know, Mike, you were kind of blown away by this, that there's nobody above this. Are things different?
It wasn't me. It was Dave who was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Are things different though? Like, absolutely. Yeah. Our cipher compared to Wisconsin is completely different. Are the rituals maybe just like a little different? Probably. Maybe the wording is just a little different. I can tell you, going to different lodges in the world, things were just a little different, but I can walk into a lodge room and I know exactly what a person's title is by the chair he is sitting in, or the jewel that he's wearing around his neck, or the decoration that's on his apron and so forth. It's all straightforward and understandable as far as that goes. Once you get into it, it does take a little time, though, to kind of fully understand. And it actually, I wouldn't even say understand, but comprehend it, where you get that comprehensive knowledge of that. And that's what Freemasonry is too. It's just to keep learning and keep bettering yourself, to take a good man and make him better.
So I want to follow up to Lauren's question, and I didn't get to it when you were on the other show with me, because it confused the hell out of me, because I thought that I had it, and that is, like, we call you the 32nd degree Master Mason, but you keep talking about like the degrees 1 through 3. Well, once you get to the 3rd, you don't have to go any further, sure, but what is in between then? You learn everything from the 3rd all the way up to 32.
So this is where I apologize, because I'm just in the Scottish Rite, so I can't answer for other things like the York Rite, the Shriners, etc. In the Minneapolis Valley, we're one of the very few. I think there's only 4 or 6 other valleys in the entire U.S. that will do degree work from 4 all the way up to 32, including 33. But 33 is not something that you can become. It's something that you're selected through all your works, all your doings, and so forth. So yes, I'm a 32nd degree Master of the Royal Secret, if I recall correctly. Actually, going to look it up while I keep talking to you.
Obviously, it's a title you use quite often.
I've had to look it up a few times, and it's kind of strange. I'm just trying to see if it shows me real quick, but
So
I want to say it's a Keeper of the Royal Secret or Mason of the Royal Secret is the title of that degree.
James, what's the
Yes?
secret?
I'm not telling you who's winning the Super Bowl, man.
Is that the secret? You're the 32nd degree master of the who's going to win the Super Bowl secret?
Oh, bad connection. Uh-oh. Master of the Royal Secret. That's what it is. Yep.
You're not going to say what the royal secret is?
Connection.
Yeah. It's all right. You can always just say no.
You know what? There really wasn't like a secret taught to us. It's going through the Minneapolis Valley was a lot of work because it's, like I said, it's 4 through 32nd. I had to rush from work sometimes, and you would start at 5 o'clock at night and you wouldn't get done until 11 o'clock at night. And it's several months. And it's a grandiose thing. So typically we would go through about 3 degrees in the evening. But for those of you that have been in the Minneapolis Valley there, and you were in the main room, we use that room with all those costumes and everything else. And actually, I'm in the 18th. No, I can't think of it right now. I used to be in the 18th degree in the Rose-Croix, and I'm now in the 26th. I feel really bad about it for not knowing this, but we go through all this pageantry and so forth, and everything that we do as far as when we do this ritual work, it's all memorized. There's no reading anything from a script. Everything is memorized, and the ritual, like I said, can go for a few hours. So all these guys put so much work into their part and so forth. I know that wasn't necessarily the question or anything, but I do want to point that out because so many people go into so much detail. We have a lighting crew, we have a sound crew, we have a music crew. All this stuff. In fact, we also have somebody that's in charge of the wardrobe. And when things get checked out, they're checked out to a specific name. And whatever the part in that ritual is, everything, it's very meticulous as far as the 4 through 32nd. I want to say I'm in the 26th degree right now. I don't know that for a fact, though.
You know more about Masons than you do about yourself.
Well, I have such a small part in there. I mean, I've gone through all the degrees, but now I have a part where I'm part of the ritual for incoming Masons and so forth. So that's what I mean by that. I don't want to confuse anybody. Like I was 32, then I went to 26 or whatever. I'm just taking part in the 26th degree when it's being put on. Sorry if that confused you guys. I feel like I didn't do the best job on that.
No.
That makes sense.
So, the thing that got me is I understand the whole ritual part of it and getting to that next level and the next degree, which is completely voluntary, correct? Like you choose to go up to the next level.
Correct. So even for like the first 3 degrees of Masonry, first and foremost, you cannot, if you're just an entered apprentice, you're the first degree, you can't join the Scottish Rite. You need to become a Master Mason, 3rd degree Master Mason, before you decide to move on or anything beyond that, if that's what you want to do. Did that help?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just confirming that part of my question. But I know that Haley, Lauren, and Sam have not seen this yet. They have. I know I showed Lauren photos of it recently, but
It looks beautiful. I'd love to go.
well, I was more talking about the costume shop specifically. And I kind of told them the history of that and how they're like all of your costumes are like literally historic landmarks or historical objects now. But I mean,
Yep.
how are these costumes used during these degrees and why? I mean, because they like robes with wizards and like there's shields on the wall. And I mean, like these are what you would see like on a Broadway show or, you know, a drama club, not, you know, at the 3rd floor of the Scottish Rite Temple. So, I mean, I'm just curious as to how these costumes get integrated into your rituals.
Excuse me. So real quick, we have one room. It's called the Red Room. And basically it's used as another lodge. When a specific degree that is more or less inside of an Egyptian pyramid. And when we do that particular degree, it takes about 2 weeks to turn that room into this pyramid. And it literally looks like you walk out from a hallway that's just a normal hallway into an Egyptian pyramid. I mean, a lot of work goes into this stuff. The costumes are no different than you're going to do Scrooge, for example. Granted, Scrooge's costume was kind of a frumpy suit, or he was wearing a nightshirt, but that was his costume to portray his character in Scrooge. You know, you might have one of the ghosts with the chains and so forth. So, I mean, what's being portrayed is really part of the degree work, and that's where it gets sticky, and I can't really say a lot about what's happening or what's being done, because when it comes to masonry, there's so much allegory that we use, and everything does have a meaning, whether it be swords, shields. There's no wizards, I can tell you that there, Mike. But
Just say that's what it looked like.
I know that we were talking about that at the last Pokemon thing, yeah. But you know, we'll but we have just a ton of props, and not just the costumes too. We also have the backdrops, which we did actually get repaired. I don't know if you remember that, Mike. We couldn't really go up on the stage or behind the stage because the pulley system was so old that one of the the backdrops, and they weigh several hundred pounds, had failed and dropped. And it's not just one, there's a ton of them. So, I mean, we have tents, we have campfires, you name it, we probably have it. It is amazing. Like I said, there's only 4 or 6 other Scottish Rite Valleys that will go 4 through 32. A lot of them will do principal degrees. So, and I don't know which the principal's degrees are in the Scottish Rite, because I went through all of them, so I don't know which is which. I do know that like 18, the Rose Croix is a principal degree. So if you were in a different valley in, I don't know, Illinois, you wouldn't go 4 through 32. You would just get a certain amount of degrees to become a 32nd degree. But yeah, all the props and everything are a huge deal, and so many of those costumes are very old. And in fact, if they do need to be dry cleaned, they have to get permission to take them out of the building with the state.
I kind of have a question leading off for that, but I know I already asked a question, so I can leave it open if somebody else has a burning question.
Go for
Okay.
it, Lauren.
I would say,
All
believe me, nobody else has a burning question.
I just didn't want to take somebody else's time. Okay, so you were it sounds like there's a lot of, especially in what you do when you do have a ritual or when you guys meet, it sounds like there's a lot of symbolism in every single little detail. So I'm just wondering, for like, say like a ritual that you do pretty regularly, is that something that's more modern, or has that kind of been similar to like hundreds of years ago and it's been pretty the same since?
So George Washington becoming a Mason and me becoming a Mason were probably extremely similar. I know not much has changed. The only things that will change are due to geography and the way that things are translated or copied down or interpreted by another brother who's bringing it forward or something like that. I'm trying to think of the movie where I think Mila Kunis was in there and Jamie Foxx, and he has to get somewhere, and at the end he's reciting the entire Bible. He's blind, and you don't see that in the movie. You don't understand that, but he's reciting the entire Bible so that they can write it down. They've been trying to get a whole piece or a whole Bible forever because, mankind blew itself up or whatever. I don't know, but
Are you talking about the Book of Eli?
that's it. That's the one.
Well,
yep.
That's Denzel Washington, not
Denzel Washington. Okay, fine. I screwed up. I'm sorry. So my thing was him reciting this back. How do you know that's a perfect replica of the Bible? Does that make sense about why things might be a little different here or there? You don't always know it's going to be a perfect replica. So again, George Washington and I, we went through very similar, if not the same, degree work.
It's not.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
No. I was just going to make a joke and say you and George Washington are like this.
You bros.
That was all I had to say, Lauren. Go ahead.
No, so I was just gonna say, I guess, because with a lot of the religions that you see, they kind of make changes to when society kind of shifts its principles a little bit. So I was curious if that was kind of the same with you guys, especially with the rituals and the things that you do when you're physically together as a group. So that's super interesting that they're pretty kept as much the same as they can be, from what it sounds like, over hundreds of years. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Again, it's to keep everything on the level. Everything is equal. Everything. It's not about being the same, because we're not the same. And in fact, I can go to a different lodge in Minnesota, and it's just going to be a little bit different. And don't forget, somebody is going to emphasize this word where most people would emphasize this word. And by doing that, the different, I guess, emphasis, you could be changing the meaning in somebody else's mind subconsciously, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So, when I was in college, before I dropped out of college, that is, I was a history major. So I'm very, very interested in, the historical context of a lot of things. My question to you is if you could give us a little bit of an idea of how the Freemasons started, but I also kind of want to know how different do you think the Masons are today in terms of how they were, let's say when George Washington was a Mason, when he was president of the United States. If you have any sort of idea of how the work that Freemasons do changes, or because I know the rituals have stayed the same, but I want to know more about like the work, the philanthropic side of the Masons, how much that has changed over time.
So Masons changed due to the fact of how Masons started. Masonry started in Europe, basically, from my understanding. There's not documents weren't necessarily kept for this because of the fact that it was secretive. So what would happen is we're trying to build this Gothic church in France, let's say, and you need people who know geometry, who know how to put all these blocks together. And then you need people that are trying to learn all of this, but still do the grunt work. And then you need the grunt work. There's your first 3 degrees of Masonry right there. You have the Master Mason. So each degree of Masonry has its own way of identifying oneself to another. And I would know if a man was saying that he's a Master Mason, but he's not giving me the proper responses, I would know that he's a first degree. And so what it was is basically you having, excuse me, these words and these specific handshakes is one, where you can tell one brother in the dark as well as in the light. And the light isn't just in the light, but it's in the light of Masonry. That Master Mason could travel the world, which was a lot smaller then, but basically he could prove that he was a Master Mason, get Master Mason work, and receive Master Mason's wages. Moving back down, you would have the entered apprentice fellowcraft, who's still doing a lot of the grunt work, but is learning the different aspects. I mean, you got to think about it, Sam. There wasn't a public school on every corner back in those days. People were born, and as soon as they could work, that's what they did. They were in the field or whatever. If you were a blacksmith's son, you were working, to be a blacksmith, etc. You were working. You were not there to educate yourself. And Masonry was there to teach people on how to do these things. So that fellowcraft is trying to learn while also still doing that physical work. The entered apprentice is basically just signed on to give 7 years of his life of working his butt off to do all that physical labor, then to move up to the fellowcraft, and then to move up to the Master Mason. So that's how Masonry started, and it was a way to protect the secrets of Masonry, to ensure that not just anybody would be like, I'm a Master Mason, I deserve this much pay. Okay, build me this church, and then they build a donkey house. I don't know, but it was their way to protect all of that and to ensure that the work was nothing but sublime. Obviously, we ran out of churches to build. But Masonry was just so well accepted, again, throughout the world. The world was a lot smaller, that it became speculative, where these men would get together to discuss philosophy, and still do. These men would get together to discuss what can we do to make things better? How can we improve not just ourselves, but even our community? And moving up to Brother George, him and I haven't changed a lot. Having said that, Brother George was definitely using Freemasonry, and I shouldn't say using, but was taking advantage of the fact that so many men were Freemasons. You've got Benjamin Franklin, for example, very prominent Freemason, who is going to listen to what you have to say, is going to try to help you along with this. Even if he doesn't agree, he'll tell you, I don't agree with this and this is why. And he's not telling you, I don't agree with it because how horrible is that? It's about, I'm trying to help you improve because I don't agree with it. I think it could be better if it was this way, to just give you different options and so forth. And that still happens to this day, as far as, again, we're trying to take good men and make them better. It's so for the two sets of masonry, you had the actual masons that were building things. And then when that kind of died out, it just moved over to speculative masonry. And that's what we all know as Freemasonry right now. Did that answer your question, Sam?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
I can ask a question. I'll hop in. I've been pretty quiet so far. And mostly just out of me trying to absorb everything, because I'm kind of with Lauren, where I was like, I don't really know what I don't even know. So I think it's interesting, though, that you said this is sort of like a worldwide thing. And I'm curious to know where you've kind of gotten to go in the world with this, if you had any particular lodges that were really, really cool. Like, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about that.
Denmark was phenomenal. I actually got to go to, they were raising a brother from one degree to another. And again, this brother was beyond the initial 3 degrees, and they only go up to the 10th degree. And then their 11th degree is kind of that, like our 33rd. You don't just become the 11th degree. It's through hard work and it's recognized. I don't know what degree he was being moved up to, but we're in costumes and everything, and things are kind of going back and forth between English and Danish. And they intentionally had a brother that sat next to me that was very fluent in English, and he leans over to me and he whispers, did you bring a sword? I'm like, bring a sword? Yeah, it was in my carry-on. What do you mean, did I bring a sword? No, I didn't bring a sword. So then he's leaning over, and then all of a sudden there's like a sword being passed down because I'm, trying to take part in this. And it was just phenomenal. How great they were. And they ended up giving me the honorary 11th degree, and I still wear that pin on my lapel anytime I'm dressed like in a suit or something like that for a Masonic thing. Ireland was really neat as well. Went to the Grand Lodge of Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, by the way. That was really neat. I was able to attend a lodge meeting there, and just a lot of fun. And even here in the U.S., I've been to several states where I've gone to different lodges. The only thing is there are lodges that are not on the level. For example, I don't know that this has changed, but this was a couple of years ago. There were some lodges that were, we'll just say, down south, that didn't support things like people being gay, for example. And all the other Grand Lodges were like, that's not being on the level. You're now raising yourself through sexuality versus religion or politics or something like that. And we would not be able to attend a meeting or degree work at those lodges. So anytime that I would visit a lodge, I would have to check in with my lodge secretary, and he has this book, which is a worldwide book, and he would look in there and like, yep, you can go to that lodge, and you have your dues card that shows that you're up to date with everything and so forth. And they'll typically reach out to that lodge and say, hey, we have a brother that's going to be attending or something like that. But yeah, I helped you out, Haley.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I drag on a little bit sometimes, or I kind
No,
of
no,
digress
no.
in a weird direction or something.
No, it's interesting.
Scott, still nothing? That's fair.
No,
All right. So,
But-
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
no, I don't have a question. I have studied Freemasonry in the past, but so I maybe know a little bit more than some of you guys do. But I guess I could a question I could ask is why are women still not allowed to attend meetings and be part of the?
They absolutely are. They're part of the Order of the Eastern Star,
Mhm.
which would have a Master Mason in attendance, basically, due to the fact that it's a fraternity and not a sorority. So we even have different kids programs, the Jobies, why can't I think of his name? He was burned at the stake on October 13th. Jacques Demolay, the Demolay, which we support all of that. And it's a lot of fun to go to some of these events too. And they love when you have like a master, not a Master Mason, but like a master of the lodge there. They just think that's really cool.
So, I mean, you said in the beginning of the show that being a Freemason is not for every man.
Correct.
And I know that there are definitely like a minimum qualification when it comes to being able to be and even begin your process of becoming a Freemason. So, I mean, what are the basically the minimum requirements for somebody to be able to be a Mason?
So I'm going to preface this because some people get a little off put by this. It has been brought up in the past. Should we change this? And everyone says no. It's just part of tradition. It's not something that is practiced, at least here in the United States. It's kept for the sake of tradition, no more, no less. You need to be a male. You need to be freeborn, meaning not a slave. You have to be of age, so an adult, which here is 18, obviously. And you have to believe in a higher power, something, for example, an atheist is not able to become a Mason. You have to believe in something higher than yourself. And for me, like I said, I'm a Christian, so it's Christ. And then an investigation is done on and with you into your character. You'll have multiple brothers meet with you, talk with you, ask you different questions, and they also want to meet with you too to see what are your reasons to become Freemasons. And as soon as people are like, "Well, I want to find the treasure," it's like, okay, have a good day. It's obviously it's not about that. So those are the basic requirements, more or less.
Have you actually had anybody pledge to be a Mason and ask why? They like, I want to know what happened on Oak Island.
Yeah, not Oak Island, but yeah, they'll say like the treasure, or I want to become rich, and Freemasons are all rich, and it's like that ain't the case, man. But you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're looking to better yourself, if you're looking to be something bigger than just yourself, then that's what we're all about. We're looking to improve ourselves. We're looking to improve our communities as well. It's amazing what some of these lodges do for their community that a lot of people don't realize just how much is contributed through their particular Masonic lodge, like in smaller communities and so forth. They don't know that. So if you're looking to join for the wrong reason, then just don't. You're going to be disappointed. And have we had people that go through the 3 degrees and we never hear from them again? It does happen. And it kind of sucks because it's like you're missing out on so much more. But oh well. I mean, each person has to make their own decision.
So, I mean, obviously, over the course of these centuries, you've tried to keep as much as you can the same. Other things have evolved, based on need and everything else and societal changes. Where do you see Masonry in another 50 years? I mean, do you still see it the same, or are we changing as a society in such a rapid way that you think maybe another evolutionary decision needs to be made for you guys?
So I don't know how to answer that because
is that the royal secret?
No, because we're going through something right now. I mean, everybody is, they're all on their phone. People don't, hey, Sam, I want to meet up with you and have lunch. They don't do that anymore. We would text or we'd be on Facebook. Either way, people aren't meeting face to face. And that's what Masonry is. We conduct our business in lodge. We did change a little bit for COVID because the lodges still needed to conduct business in order for their charters to be intact. And we did change things a little bit, but that wasn't the norm. I mean, COVID isn't the norm, period. So, we're still trying to figure out things with that. I just don't know, Mike, because we, within the last 20 years, have evolved so differently than we have within the last 200 years. Things are just, I don't know if I want to use the word progressing or digressing, but things are moving in such a dynamic, fluid, quick way that I'm not sure what Masonry is going to be like. I hope we can evolve, but again, kind of like going back to being freeborn, we didn't want to change it because it's just tradition, and it's our tradition. We want to keep our tradition. So I just don't know that people right now are as interested. I'm not sure if I'm conveying this properly, but it's something that every Grand Lodge has been bringing up at the Grand Lodge meetings, which are held once a year. And everyone is, I've got a solution. I've got an idea, and so forth. And some seem great, and some seem like, what were you smoking when you came up with that? So I'm sorry, but I don't have a solid answer because I just don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you what, if I'm not around, it's just going to suck.
I say the same thing to my team like every day. I just once a week, but so we're almost out of time. So if anybody has any final question that they would like to ask, maybe they haven't had a chance to. Okay, we all know everything about Masonry now.
Well, we
I have like 50
1
questions.
minute left.
Yeah.
Well, we can go over by a couple minutes. I mean, we can't go hugely over, but I mean, if anybody has just a question that maybe wasn't covered or they want clarification on or more information, by all means ask.
Okay, I have one question then, if I can narrow it down. So, because our team has been in the Scottish Rite Temple to do a paranormal investigation, is there a particular stance that the Masons take on the paranormal, or is it kind of an individual belief that you guys don't really talk about, or how does that kind of mix in?
It would be more of an individual belief, because this would be more my understanding is spirituality and religion kind of coexist. So again, the whole religion, we're now starting to do this instead of this. So it's a very tricky subject. Even when I was trying to get you guys in for the investigation, it was really difficult to pull off. Yeah, a lot of people weren't thrilled about it. Some people were actually outright pretty PO'd. It kind of felt like I was doing something sacrilege or something like that. It's just, I mean, Lauren, look at it this way. When you're out in the public, how do people react to what you do? Some people think it's really cool, and some people think that you're crazy, or whatever it may be, whatever their thoughts are on it, or feelings, I guess, is probably a better way.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking the same thing, as they do kind of cross each other's lines a little bit. So I wasn't sure if that fell into the kind of religion. We don't talk about that because it creates differences. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty. That's all the time that we have for this week. But thank you for coming on and again sharing your wealth of knowledge and everything except yourself. And I really want to know what the royal secret is.
I really want to know who the guy in the tin hat is.
The tin hat?
Yeah, at the end of your segment.
Oh, no, you don't. You won't be seeing that this week, I assure you. So, but James, thank you again for coming on. And if anybody has any further questions, whether they're watching or whatever on masonry, or maybe they want to give it a try themselves, how would they go about doing all of that?
In this state, you could go right to the Minnesota Grand Lodge website. And just put that into Google, put Minnesota Grand Lodge, it'll come right up. And there's so many different resources that you can go to through there to figure out what lodge would be closest to you. Or if anybody has a question, feel free to email Mike, and he's got my information, and I can get back in touch with you.
If I am your secretary in so many times, do I get like an honorary Mason degree?
I'll give you a challenge coin. I think I already did, didn't I?
No.
I thought I did. Oh, well, I'll give you a challenge coin.
If it's free, I love it. So, alrighty. So that does it for us this week. We will be off next week, obviously, because we are doing the Leduc presentation. And so, yeah, I hope to see the people who watch the show get to join us for that, or, join us the next time. So for all of us, James, thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
Everybody stay healthy, stay safe. Want to see you back here next